Good evening, folks. You are cordially invited back to the plane of Innistrad for another round table. I'm joined by some familiar faces and some new faces as well, as we all collect to talk about Innistrad Midnight Hunt, as well as Innistrad Crimson Vow. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody that tonight we are raising donations for Extra Life and Sick Kids. You can go to cncpowerhour.com, which will take you right to the Extra Life donations page, where if you make a donation in increments of $4, you'll be entered into our raffles for the night. The first 50 donors are going to get MTG Arena booster packs of a set of your choice, including Crimson Vow. We're also going to be raffling off an Infinite randomly selected, yes, first 50, and we're going to be raffling off an Infinitokens prize pack too. So if you don't have these fantastic dry erase tokens and cards, we're going to be raffling off some of them. And if we reach $150 worth of donations, we're going to be giving away two Innistrad Midnight Hunt Commander Precons. And if we reach $250, we're going to add another two Commander Precons to the raffle for everybody who donates randomly selected tonight. So be sure to help out. Additionally, we're going to be doing some Q&A a little bit later in the round table. So if you have a question that you want us to ask a little bit closer to the end of the session, please redeem your highlight my message or ask a question points redemptions in chat so that we can go back and we can find the questions that you're asking. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming out, all of our guests, everybody in chat, and I do want to kick things off. So why don't we go around the table and introduce ourselves. Angelo, we'll start with you. Let us know where you're from, what you do, and do you like scary movies?
Yes, so I'm Angelo. I'm the Just Guy on Twitter. I write for EDH Rec, and I like scary movies, but I'm a scaredy cat. I have a really difficult time sitting through them. I watched Hereditary and was terrified the whole time. Was not a good time. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming back. Gaurav, how about yourself? What do you do? Who are you? And do you like scary movies?
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Gaurav Gulati. I am currently an editor at the Command Zone. I do mostly the ads and their special projects, which you might see in episodes of Game Nights in between the fun gameplay. There's usually some fun edited segments we do sometimes. And as for scary movies, yes, I used to watch a lot of them and not as much right now, but I do like scary movies. My favorite one is The Thing, which is like classic John Carpenter movie that lots of people have probably seen, and highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. It's very good.
Worth it for the practical effects alone.
Yeah, so
absolutely
good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Jake, how about you? Who are you? What do you do? And do you like scary movies?
Hey everyone, it's Casual Jake. I got my links tree up in the chat. But yeah, I'm an MTG content creator. I have a YouTube channel where I play constructed formats, and I play the Casual Corner where we play some Commander gameplay. And I stream here on Twitch, and of course I make the TikToks every once in a while. I try to stay relevant and cool. When I can quote a TikTok at school, my students think that I either think I'm really cool or I'm really cringe. Either way, it gets their attention. So as far as scary movies go, I feel like I didn't grow up with them for sure. I think the first time I saw one was like my senior year of high school, and it was the Blair Witch Project, and I was messed up, and like I didn't know that it was fake. Honestly, like I missed it. It was like years after it came out, but like I missed all that. 'Cause I just stayed away from scary movies, and so I was like, I was like, they didn't really die on camera, right? This isn't a snuff film. Like, please tell me it was fake. Say psych. But I do enjoy them now. I have a really good time with them. I actually just recently watched Hereditary. Again, another kind of a newer classic. And again, same thing. Just the entire time I was like, I hate my life. Why do I do this to myself? But, you know, clearly there's something about horror that just gets people jazzed up. And, you know, there's certain hormones that we just like,
Absolutely. Thank you, Jake, for coming out. And Clay, who are you? What do you do? And scary movies? Yes or no?
Yeah. So I'm Clay or Clayby. this is what I do. I'm the CNC representative that gets to come on and do these roundtables. We stream virtual EDH, limited formats. We do sealed. We play with the precons, and we do some other variety stuff as well. But as far as I'm not actually like a scary movie person, there's basically all scary movies fall into one of two categories. One, like it doesn't impact me at all, or it impacts me to a point that it like triggers my anxiety and I will struggle with it for significant periods of time after the movie, whether or not it's like, so I don't have any interest in them. But I did actually recently get into a horror book club, and that's been really neat. And something about the reading makes it a lot easier to parse. There's something about that, like the separation of the visual, I think. So I've been kind of enjoying getting into the genre a little more last couple of months through that. So that's been cool. But movie-wise, not so much.
Gotcha. Well, thanks once again for joining us. And as always, hey, folks, I'm Chris, and I'm your Commander Mechanic. I'm going to be our moderator for tonight, as always, with our roundtables, making sure that we answer your questions and we talk about the set, Duo 2, that we'll be covering tonight. And as far as scary movies go, I'm a big fan, but I'm a fan of scary movies from like the... that doesn't look real standpoint, or like that's obviously a special effect standpoint. I like debunking them because it makes them less scary. When I was a kid, I was terrified of scary movies. I watched Cujo in a hotel once and was terrified. So since then, I've been like looking at scary movies in the lens of what about this isn't real, so it's not as scary to me. And I love looking at new movies and being like, okay, that's clearly CGI, that's a practical effect, stuff like that. How is that done in camera? All of that kind of stuff, but still a ton of fun. And tonight, one of the reasons why I want to ask about scary movies is because we are returning to Innistrad for the third time now. And Innistrad is like our gothic horror plane here in Magic. And because this is the third time that we're coming back, we're getting some of the classic gothic horror tropes that we've seen previously. We're getting vampires, we're getting werewolves, we're getting ghosts and geists and spirits and everything like that. So I want to ask of our panel here, what's your experience with Innistrad? Do you have experience going all the way back to the OG set of Innistrad and Dark Ascension and the whole block? Have you been to the Shadows over Innistrad set, or is this your first experience on the plane? Clay, why don't we start with you?
So I started playing before the second Innistrad set. So I went through Shadows and Eldritch Moon, but we weren't super like entrenched players at that point. We were just playing kitchen table for the most part, playing with like pre-con commander decks and stuff. So there definitely wasn't the like level of immersion in Magic as there is like now, for example, right? So there's still people will talk about Shadows or Eldritch Moon and talk about cards from them, and I just had never seen them. Like, was I playing Magic during that time? Sure, but like we didn't know, like we weren't playing any kind of constructed formats. We weren't playing in any metas outside of what happened inside of, the CNC house. So I appreciated the art and stuff, but, definitely didn't have the impact I think that it would have had I experienced it like I do now, right? Like if I was as enfranchised in Magic.
Right. So this is the first time that you're really like knee deep in an Innistrad set then.
Yeah, for sure. And I obviously, so I missed the original Innistrad. So I didn't have that connection to Shadows and Eldritch Moon, which I think also impacted like how much I cared about it, right?
Right. Makes sense. Jake, how about you? What's your experience like with Innistrad as a plane?
Yeah, so this is my first trip to Innistrad, if you will. I started playing during Ixalan, so vampires, super familiar with them, but I'm familiar with the Conquistador style, which Ixalan whole thing. I almost want to retroactively roundtable that sometimes, but Innistrad, it's really cool, right? I think it's really cool. I've been really excited about it. Again, I heard so many stories from my in-franchise players that have been playing for a long time that Innistrad was such an awesome set. It was just so unique and so cool, and it really encapsulated, kind of like you said, that classic horror, gothic horror stuff. I will say I'm feeling some of that from this current set as I'm going through it, but I do love how they're starting to incorporate some newer horror trends, like the big emphasis on like folk horror and whatnot that we've seen for stuff like Midsummer and some of the resurgence with that. I think it's really cool that they've kind of, with the times, changed and included some of that in these newer sets. So I'm excited. I really like Midnight Hunt. Can't wait to get my hands on some Crimson Vow and go to town.
Fantastic. Awesome. Gaurav, how about you? What's your experience like with the Plane of Innistrad?
So I've been playing since the first Innistrad. Actually, that was the first time I got to do like a pre-release. So and that was very exciting. So I remember that it's very near and dear to my heart, that very first Innistrad. And that was when they were still doing like triple blocks. So basically it was 3 sets in Innistrad. So we were there for a long, long time, and they told a very specific story from beginning to end. And it's a very cool story that we're still seeing ramifications from like still like to this 3rd set, which is very, very cool. So it's a set with a lot of history, and I really enjoy any time we go to it. I'm a big fan of Gothic horror now, and I think it's partially because of Innistrad. I'm a big D&D fan, and there's a setting called Barovia in D&D, which is one of my favorites. I have this poster that's from Barovia, but like it's basically like the same place, like honestly. So I'm a big fan of Gothic horror, big fan of Innistrad.
Yeah, a lot less of the really disorienting mists that surround the plane kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. And Angelo, I think you're as close as an expert to the Plane of Innistrad as it gets. Why don't you let all of us know your experience?
So I started playing Magic the pre-release weekend of M13, which was between Innistrad and Return to Ravnica. And so while Ravnica was like the first plane that I went to, the 3 months in between, all of all the cards that I was getting, all Innistrad. And so for such a long time, the way that I learned Magic was just on Innistrad. I was steeped in Innistrad and Dark Ascension and Avacyn Restored, and I considered Innistrad, my home plane. When I think, oh, going back to Innistrad, I think, oh, I'm going back home. It just kind of resonates with me. It's the one way that I can actually engage in like horror as a medium without getting super spooked. And I have my Innistrad cube, which is just, I love the plane, so I just wanted to make a cube of it. And really happy that we went back for 2 sets as opposed to 1. I think in the design you can kind of feel that like they planned it as 1 and then it kind of had to get split up into 2, but I think that it worked out really well.
Yeah, and I think that is really evident by the double feature set that's coming out in the beginning of 2022, where they're kind of mashing the 2 sets together as one draftable environment, which really does say, like, at one point the design file got bloated enough for a Return to Innistrad that they really had to separate it into 2, which, I mean, I'm sure that many of us aren't arguing about that. I think that spending a little bit more time on a plane like Innistrad that resonates so well with so many players is something that we were all looking forward to, especially with the kind of story that we're getting with Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, which really has kind of 2 distinct halves to it. Midnight Hunt dealing with the kind of prolonged night cycle, now that a certain eldritch horror is locked in the moon on the plane. And then the second half dealing with kind of the fallout of the ritual to restore day and night, as well as the nuptials of Olivia Voldaren and Edgar Markov. What flavor-wise do you feel is appropriate or fits this plane the most? Is it the ritual or that like folk horror setting that we kind of got in Midnight Hunt? Or is it this kind of opulent, aristocratic wedding ceremony that we're getting in Crimson Vow? Which one, really feels richer to you as a player and as a fan of this? Jake?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, and this might be getting a little bit ahead, but I love the two-set system. It's probably been my favorite for story, because Innistrad is so big that I don't know if we did do this as one set, we would get as deep into, like you said, this opulent palace, pageantry of the vampires with the down-to-earth, folksy, wild nature of the werewolves and whatnot. So I think having two sets in this plane really did the plane justice, so that we could kind of get to those extremes, if you will. And one thing I was worried about was I thought, I was a little afraid that it was going to be, Midnight Hunt and then Midnight Hunt but vampires. But I really do feel like they're unique enough to where they do feel like separate sets, but the connection there is still strong enough that I feel really engaged with both of it and really excited. I feel like Midnight Hunt set up a story that I was ready for Crimson Vow to start resolving, and it didn't just go over too fast. So if I had to pick one that resonated with me, thought I was more excited for Crimson Vow, but like I said, that folk, just the struggle of human versus beast really resonated to me with what's it called? Midnight Hunt, where I feel like Crimson Vow, because we're dealing with these vampires and, there are these undead, immortal beings, potentially, it feels like it's almost like there's a little bit removed from the humans. Now we need to call in, these extra powers to really fight this larger, almost, I don't want to say godlike, but more, supernatural threat.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that the two set structure, which we will touch on a little bit further as well, is definitely one that's doing this story justice in particular, but I think has some implications for other planes that we have visited or will visit again, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Gaurav, what about you? How do you feel about Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow? Which one flavor-wise do you feel fits or hits for you?
They both hit for me. I think Vow hits a little better for me just because I really like the event that they're putting on. It's so cool to do something like a wedding in Magic the Gathering, because it seems something that's super relatable, but you get to see it from a different perspective. But the cool thing about Midnight Hunt is that it's almost a reset of Innistrad, because the last time we were here, it was besieged by eldritch horrors. And it was cool, but it was also like, this doesn't feel like Innistrad anymore. It felt like a totally different kind of thing, which is probably what they were going for. But at the same time, people were like, well, I kind of miss the whole thing about vampires and werewolves. And so I think Midnight Hunt was a good way to sort of reset the palette for everybody, for people who are new to it and people who are returning from it, to say this is sort of the best of what Innistrad is. It's a long night and there's cool monsters, there's humans trying to survive. And then doing the second part of it, which is a wedding, is let's see a cool event in this plane, which is such a great way of world building. I love world building in these sets, and an event like that I would love to see more of in any sort of set that we go into.
Absolutely. And I think that you put it perfectly. This is a kind of a palate cleanser for the plane after we saw it absolutely messed up the last time that we were here. We saw it messed up from a physical standpoint with all of the mutations and abominations, but now we're really getting back to kind of those horror roots that we're seeing. So I think that this is a perfect, let's kind of get to status quo on the plane here, which is fantastic. And you touched on the flavor of the wedding as well, which I do want to pass around the table here, because we're kind of seeing this in recent sets where they're taking something relatable and putting it in a Magic setting, like we saw with Strixhaven, where they're taking academics in the school setting and putting that into Magic. Now they're taking something like a wedding or a festival and putting it into a Magic setting and putting that spin on it. And I want to delve a little bit deeper into that in a couple of minutes here. But Angelo, from your standpoint, Midnight Hunt or Crimson Vow, fits or hits?
For me, I would say Midnight Hunt, only for the sheer fact that it seems like they went out of their way to have Midnight Hunt feel like original Innistrad, whereas at least to me, Midnight Hunt feels like Innistrad Dark Ascension, whereas Crimson Vow feels like Avacyn Restored, where here's this event, here's this thing that happened. It's in the same setting, but it's slightly different. And I at first, mechanically, I was like, cleave, like you just use flashback, like we just had it in the other set, do it again. And I'm like, oh well, that's kind of defeating the purpose of like having something feel different. But it's not. It doesn't feel so different that it doesn't feel like Innistrad.
Very fair. Very fair. And Clay, to you, Midnight Hunt, Crimson Vow, which one hits better?
Crimson Vow, like as a set for me, definitely hits a lot cleaner. And I think listening prior to that is probably because I didn't experience original Innistrad, so I don't have the same connection to it as people who got to experience it firsthand. There was a lot of Midnight Hunt that did connect with me. I think the one, and it's kind of unfortunate given the the subject of the set, but like the one part that missed for me with Midnight Hunt was the dire werewolf, and like this, okay, there's werewolves, but they're more hardcore, and I couldn't connect. I really liked the folk, the rituals, the idea of that aspect, the art for the humans in the set, there was so much neat stuff, but I just couldn't grab onto it. But the idea of designing an entire set around a single ceremony, like where I was talking about the world building and this top-down concept, is amazing. From the undead servants to all of the different houses being represented. You've got performers, you've got socialites, you've got that aspect, and showing us the depths of the vampire aristocracy. So cool. And then also Vow, we kind of get these the Stitchers back, right? And now you've got more of the the zombies, and also still recognizing the impact of the Eldrazi. I think the horrors that we get to see in the in Vow, where there's the birds, but the head's just the little tentacle eye, those little nods to where we were last time really also touched me. I really appreciate getting to see those, where it's okay, no, the world's not all Eldrazi'd, but it also doesn't just get cleaned up. So every once in a while you're going to be riding through Gavony, and then there's just going to be what the fuck is that up in the sky, right?
Right, like we got with the moose with the big mouth in its abdomen. I mean, these horrors aren't going away, right? They're still there. We're kind of returning to the classic horror tropes, but some of the fallout from Emrakul's influence on the plane is still there. It's still present in one way or another. We're getting little teases and little bits of it, but it's still nice to see that nod to the last time that we were here on the plane.
Yeah, and I think I also, it was harder to connect with what the Midnight Hunt wanted to be around a singular event-ish, the ritual, but it was kind of harder to connect with that because there were so many pieces, and there was kind of the before piece, and then the meeting piece, and then this is the thing, and then after the thing, and then Olivia's there, and there was just a lot of little parts to it that kind of made it a little tougher for me to grok.
Absolutely understandable. I do want to shout out that we have already passed $150 in donations tonight.
Hey,
Thank you,
nice.
everybody. That's fantastic. That means that we will be raffling off 2 of the Innistrad Midnight Hunt precons at the end. So do stay tuned to see if you win. If we pass $250 in donations, we're going to be adding 2 more precons to that as well. So please make sure to donate if you haven't. Increments of $4. Hit ! Donate in chat, or go to cncpowerhour.com to donate. Thank you, everyone, for your generosity so far. We're only about 30 minutes in, and we've already hit our first goal. So thank you very much.
Let's go.
Nice,
Awesome.
nice work. Great.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the flavor, and specifically about Crimson Vow's flavor here, and how we're taking something that is relatable in that it's a wedding ceremony, something that we have all had experience with attending or being in our own or whatever it might be. But this is something that has some bit of mundanity to it, part of our everyday lives, but they've put this spin on it. They've put this really magic related emphasis on it, just like we got earlier this year with Strixhaven. And I know that a couple of us were present for the Strixhaven roundtable as well, where we talked about the school setting and academics and how putting it in a magic setting makes it relatable. And, everything from, the pressure for performance to the social environment at school to just regular things like study sessions. Putting that in a magic setting is something like, hey, that's real for me and that's real in magic. And now we're getting that with Crimson Vow. We're getting bridal gowns, we're getting groom's finery, we're getting wedding invitations, and these things are all real things that now have a representation in magic. We have wedding rings as a card now in magic. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like bringing in these normal things into a magic environment is a good thing? Does that resonate with you? Is that something that you'd like to see more or less of? Clay, why don't we start with you?
Well, I was going to start, and I was going to say that, like, speaking of like mundane, but also like we're still on this like horror subject. Officiating a wedding is one of the is probably the scariest thing I've ever done, and I would never want to do that again. So being part of it was a really good time. I'm really glad I did it for my friends, but like the pressure, that was terrifying. And so, we're talking about this horror and the mundane. It's like, yeah, no. Looking at all these cards, like, yeah, I remember being this scared. Yeah, exactly. Unholy officiant. That was me sitting there. But I think that there is I think that there's a lot of value to be had from a creative standpoint when you're world building to take relatable everyday aspects to enrich and color the like fantasy world that you're building, right? So like we talked about with Strixhaven, we talked about like the things that allow us to connect with art, are the things that we experience or we feel or we see. And so then, if it's I have never been to a midnight festival in the woods in order to try to like, save the day and go through werewolves and stuff. I've been to weddings. I've been through this stuff. You know what I mean? So there's these aspects, the little details, and I think that they help us get a better feel for the world, while still fulfilling mechanical needs. But I think having those the little pieces, it also makes the fantastic stuff that much cooler, right? I think so. Then when you're like, oh, this is the carriage, and then this is all that stuff. That's neat. This is the Omni Frog. Whoa, there's an Omni Frog. Like, and then all like that makes that stuff that much more special because like we've had like this is real. This is a wedding for fancy people with a lot of money. They're gonna go all out, but the frog, and you're just like, I think the world's better for both sides.
Getting to see the mundane next to the fantastic gives you this kind of contrast that makes it like that much more fantastical, right?
I keep forgetting it's actually omnivore. I've convinced myself that it's Omnifrog. Like in my head, I cannot.
He is omnipotent.
Yeah.
Hypnotoad.
Yeah.
All right, Gaurav, what do you feel about the flavor here of Crimson Vow and the wedding ceremony? Do you feel like having those kind of almost real world things in a fantasy setting makes it that much more enjoyable?
Yeah, I do. I really enjoy it, and coming from thinking about people who are new to the game, someone who sees something that is like Zendikar's in trouble, save it, and it's like, well, what does that mean? Like, what are these monsters? It's harder to relate to when you look at it in that perspective. But if you hear there's a vampire wedding set, you're like, oh, I can understand that. Like, I've been to a Halloween party before. It's like that, but it's with vampires and they're real and they're going to eat you. So like, I'm all for it. I love seeing stuff like that. Like, I want to see even more mundane stuff. Show me Nissa at the DMV, like trying to get a license. Like, show me Jace's bar mitzvah. Like, I don't know. Like, let's see some weird mundane stuff in D&D or Magic the Gathering and D&D. Why not? But like, I think Wizards hopefully will do more of this stuff in established planes, because that's very cool, going back to a plane and seeing an event that is a little more relatable to just the world ending again, because that's easy to do. And, you know,
right. Let's see us rebuild Ravnica, right? Like go back and like, and we've got like a construction themed set where it's like, all the roads are closed because we're just rebuilding the 5th district, right?
Could have energy counters in there. Yeah.
After the war.
Right. So getting those kind of like real and relatable things next to the fantastic or in a fantastic setting is it hits for some people. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, to me though, those real aspects are what helped me as a player place myself in the game. I know most of us know that originally the idea of Magic is, we are the planeswalkers and we are inhabiting these worlds and casting spells and stuff like that. And when we have these things that we can all relate to, like, again, I've gotten wedding invitations. I've gone to these places. I've seen, even something weird like ceremonial knife. I've never seen a ceremonial knife in my life, but I know that there are sometimes, these trinkets or these props, if you will, involved with stuff that they have their own meaning to that couple. And so while I've never seen a ceremonial knife, I know what this is like. I can imagine, okay, I'm a vampire. I'm coming to this wedding. And of course, they use the traditional ceremonial knife to, bloodlet a human. And this is, what I mean? Like, it just helps me, bridge that gap. Because again, can't say I've ever powered up, planeswalked, and saved the world anywhere, but I've definitely gone to a wedding and experienced these things in my real life. So just having that grounding kind of helps me connect to the fantastical.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been to weddings and we've seen chocolate fountains, but at a vampire wedding, we've got the blood fountain. Right? Like, I mean,
makes sense.
It's 1-to-1, right? There, see, exactly. And these are things that make it relatable, even if it's on kind of a different axis or a little bit of a pivot, where we say these things are things that, we have experienced in our life. Here's how somebody else lives it. And it draws us in so much more. Angelo, how do you feel about the flavor?
Yeah. So 2 things. I like the idea of like the event sets. I think that they're trying to call them, like they did with War of the Spark. I would also consider Crimson Vow an event set. It's set, just around the wedding. But I do think that there is a bit of a drawback there with like Strixhaven. Strixhaven didn't particularly jive with me, but it was the first time we went to Arcavios, and I know plenty of people who don't even know that the plane is called Arcavios. They think the plane is Strixhaven.
Right.
And like, there's nothing wrong with focusing on a single place, but like Gaurav said, that's really good when you're going back to established planes that, when at least to me, when you go to a plane, you should see kind of everything for the first time, like we did with Kaldheim. We literally got to see every little bit of Kaldheim. And then next time we go back, if they want to focus on something, we know where they're going. That said, it works out really well on Innistrad. It's a very well established plane, and I think they pulled it off really well. But also, like, to that, this, like, the stuff going on, they did a really good job at making it not feel world ending, but everything going on is 100% world ending, because it's all the stuff that, like, they've been talking about since the first one, where, if Innistrad wasn't, or if Avacyn wasn't there, then the humans would get eaten by all the vampires. They'd eat one another. The werewolves would eat each other. That's what the Eternal Night's going to do. That's what them not completing the ritual in Midnight Hunt would do. And Olivia's all for it, because she's like, none of the vampires are thinking except Sorin. Like, but it is a world-ending threat. It's just very subtle, and we haven't really thought about it a whole lot. They did a really good job at not Eldrazi-ing this one, as much as I love the Eldrazi.
Yeah, and I think that your point is fantastic there, that these are world-ending events or plane-ending catastrophes that really didn't feel entirely leaned into. We're seeing them all from like a different faction's point of view, and the only one that really sees it as plain ending are the humans, and they're the only ones that are working to reset things because they're the bottom of the food chain if it's nighttime, if it's eternal night. So naturally they're the ones that are invested and involved in this, to the point where they called in how many planeswalkers across 2 sets to help unfuck the night and day cycle. Like basically they said, hey, look, the Gatewatch came here, they locked an Eldritch Horror in the moon, now we need as many hands as possible to help us unmess this up, right? And how do we feel about that from a storytelling perspective? We got things that would be world ending, and they were kind of wrapped up, at least from the day-night cycle standpoint, in a single card in Crimson Vow with the completion of the ritual, where we got the entire set of Midnight Hunt as a lead up to the entire ritual that got interrupted. Do we feel like we got cheated out of satisfying story ending to that, or did we get something satisfying? What do you think, Angelo?
It was always, at least my impression, that this story was going to end within these 2 sets. I saw a handful of people being like, oh, well, so much for an Eternal Night, it lasted 1 whole set. And it's like, well, you do know, like, if it kept going, like, we wouldn't be able to come back to Innistrad. Literally no one would be alive.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I think they did a good job. I think previews could have rolled out better. I knew Sigarda got out of her imprisonment before I knew she was imprisoned.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it was great. The web story has been fantastic.
Yeah, and it's good to see that there's more web story and there's more background coming out about these two to kind of fill in the gaps for anybody who isn't exactly satisfied by the little bit of story that we're getting from the cards. Clay, what do you? Sorry, Jake.
Oh, I just wanted to touch on one thing that Angelo kind of brought up, was how the previews went, because there's also some examples of really good preview storytelling where we saw that, you know, Odric had been turned in that other card, and then his card was revealed later. So it goes like you could go either way with the story, and if they're really intentional and they plan it out, the hero's downfall. And that was about midway through the spoilers, and then of course, you know, towards the end we got the actual Odric card. That's a really cool way to reveal a set. Like, I was engaged, you know, it's almost like I was experiencing the story as the cards were revealed. And so, like I said, there was a misstep with Sigarda. I think a hit with Odric, whether you like the card or not. I'm not even going to open that one. You know, I know there's a lot of debate on
F
that.
in the chat for Odric.
So I hope in the future they're very mindful of that, because, you know, there were some really cool moments that I got even before the set drops, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think fantastic points on both sides, where you know, we're getting some of this and we're getting a little bit of the story teased to us and a little bit more if you go and look for it. Clay, what do you think?
I think that they did what they could with the constraints. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it would have been a lot less satisfying if we left Innistrad in the Eternal Night and had to wait several years to come back to resolve it. That would have been frustrating. The one thing that would have been, like, you know, kind of talking about this, like, oh, it's the Eternal Night, and then like a month and a half later it's like it's resolved. An interesting way to like look at that, or like they could have told like a parallel story to kind of show time length and stuff, is to they could have taken the commander decks and actually done Vampires versus Werewolves as like the apex, like the night, the two vying for power in the Eternal Night. Like, that would have been a cool way to show, like, hey, these are the actual consequences besides the humans gonna get eaten. Like, what would actually happen here is now these two forces are gonna go at it. Like, that would have been kind of
power, and control of the plane. Now like endless night. Absolutely.
I think that would have been a cool way to kind of show some of the consequences of it. But, you know, one of the things that we've been seeing through the last few sets, right, is ever since War of the Spark, how do we tell normal stories again after we've wrapped up a multi-year, the fate of the multiverse storyline, right? And like, you see it all the time in like anime and different shows and stuff, where you ramp up, and then after the big arc, what do? And a lot of times, right? Then it's like, no, here's the bigger threat. Here's the biggest threat. We can go like supernatural, right? And like, dude, just keep going up the ladder. But I think the Wizards has done a good job of scaling back down and telling smaller stories that are sometimes they are still plain ending, right? In these cases, but they're not as big, they're not as cataclysmic. And so I really enjoy the way that they've done that, whether or not, some of the rollout stuff, some of the minutia, not great, but I think overall that they've done a really good job with it. And
okay.
I've enjoyed it.
How do you feel the story was told across these two sets? Satisfying endings?
I honestly didn't care how it ended, because I mean, eventually they're going to come back to Innistrad, right? And they can't just leave it eternal. Like you all said, like they can't do it. Like it has to tell a complete story from beginning to end, because they have to come back eventually. Hopefully they take a longer break this time than they did last time, just because I'm not sure where they go from here. Mm-hmm. But as Clay was mentioning, and also our producer mentioned in chat, like the Marvel movies are sort of dealing with the same issue of like, they did the big thing and now they're trying to sort of reset and do it again, slowly build up to it.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do for any medium, really. But and Magic putting out so much product every year now is having to, pigeonhole their superheroes, the Gatewatch, into each one of these, has to like figure out how to tell smaller stories. And so I want them to do more smaller stories. Another example is like the new Spider-Man's coming out, is where a guy goes to his wizard friend and says, hey, can you just make everyone forget this one thing? And it all goes wrong and everything screws up and it turns into this whole big thing. But that's not how it started, right? It started with a very small problem, at least for him, that became very large. And I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that kind of storytelling instead of world-ending monsters every time. The one thing I will say I'm disappointed by storytelling, unless they did reveal this and I didn't see it, was like, they never explain how Soren got out of that wall.
Yeah.
They never explain how I got out of that wall, because like, what happened there?
He got really angry.
Angelo?
Angelo, do you know?
Yes. They mentioned it in the third story of Midnight Hunt. Everyone's walking up to Soren's manor because they're like, oh, we need to ask Soren for help. And they walk by this hole in the wall, and there's just blood and teeth marks and claw marks over it. And he literally just bit and chewed his way out of the wall.
Wow.
That's so boy. Metal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's hardcore.
That seems like literally they told the writer, like, oh, also mention how Soren got out of the wall.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Like, there's gonna be some
Soren
guy
was
who's
here,
like really worried about it. So just answer the question.
Yeah.
So we don't have to deal with it anymore.
It's so weird.
It was metal, but a little shoehorn.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for finishing that story for me. I'm totally satisfied.
I can sleep now.
I would love for them to actually expand on that just a little bit, because it gives you like such a different picture of Soren as to like sometimes the art and the impression that people have of Soren, right? And we have this brooding guy who's like the big picture, and he is this picture of an aristocrat, right? As like, all of the different artwork that we have for this set, but it's like, this is also a vampire that when trapped in a wall bit and clawed and like just tore himself out of the stone with this like willpower and force, right? Like I would like, give us more of this Soren, like show us more of this like badass. Show us his will.
Us a short story that's like Soren as the bride from Kill Bill, buried alive, punching her way out of the coffin like Soren in the wall.
Yeah.
And it's just like a short story of Soren like clawing his fingers to the bone as he pulls at the wall.
What was that 128 hours?
Yeah, right? Where it's like one by one he chips his teeth off as he bites at the stone that he's in. Like, think of how much more metal it would be if you went into like how sheer force of will you have to be to pull yourself out of a wall that you've been buried in. Like, I think that would be a great way for us not to look at hot brooding Soren the same way ever again.
No, he would just get hotter because his shirt would be like ripped open.
Yeah.
He'd be all like sweating and stuff. I'd be like, "Who?" That's why they haven't done it. I couldn't handle. I would actually pass out. So thank you, Wizards, for not killing me.
I will say, seeing this art when it was revealed, the Soren the Mirthless art, I was like, this. I was not happy with it. I was like, this does not look like Soren to me at all. But I heard this story a while ago, and I don't know actually. I assume it's true, but how Innistrad first got made was that Mark Rosewater was trying to pitch it to the higher ups, and they were like, "No, no one likes vampires and werewolves." He's like, "No, Twilight's really big right now. It's selling." And they're like, oh, "Okay, we'll try." And then it was huge. They're like, "See?" And then now it's just going full Twilight, right? Like this is the most Twilight vampire we've ever seen. Soren leaning against a wall at a wedding. Like it's good. It's very good.
The different printings for this Soren that they pulled off for this set are all wild in different ways. Like I like that one, the borderless one kills me. Like that's the most dramatic. I'm outside of the wedding that I'm brooding at, and like like you're out on the balcony, like your breath is showing. Like
He's like, I am
producer.
the
Can we pull up
right
the Castlevania version of that? Because just
also very, very good.
Love it.
God. That's amazing.
Right?
So good.
And then the Dracula as well.
And the Dracula one's also very good, yeah.
Yeah. How do we all feel about these Dracula alt arts, these Dracula frames, right? We haven't seen something like this since whatchamacallit? Ikoria, thank you, with the Godzilla arts. But how do we feel about the Dracula alt arts? Jake, you got a question?
I'm a teacher. I love bringing in classic literature to this game. It's so nerdy. I love it. It pays off those people who are really into vampires. Like I've read Bram Stoker's actual novel. Like that's so, to me, it's niche enough that it's really cool. I love alternative arts that just hit someone, because I know there's someone out there with a leather bound version of Dracula who is just gushing over that. And I love that about some of these stuff. Secret Lairs opinions and whatnot, but when they hit just such a tight niche, ooh, that is my jam. I just think that is, and the thing is, it's not even for me. I don't actually care. I've never read Dracula, but I know someone out there, it's huge payday for them. So I'm about it.
Yeah, with all of the different interpretations of Dracula that have been out there, the wider the net you're able to cast with these alt arts, there's somebody who will have seen some kind of interpretation of Dracula that this is going to hit well with. And we saw the feedback as content creators in our own little magic circles on social media, how many people were looking at these alt arts and saying, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, I know who these characters are, I have to get this. So for some people, it hits really, really well. Gaurav, what do you think about them?
I think they kick ass. They're so freaking cool. I'm just looking at the arts that are scrolling by as our producer puts them up, and man, yeah, I do want one of each of these. And as someone pointed out in chat, Thromo King said, honestly, the more arts that are out there, the wider audience they can appeal to. And I 100% agree. Earlier this year, I got my wife into Magic, which I thought would never happen. And I was ecstatic about it. And then I told her about these cards, and she's like, that's really cool. She was really into this stuff too. So I'm all for the alternate arts. I'm curious about how they do it in the future, and hopefully it's not like Kamigawa has Fortnite alternate arts, but hopefully they'll pick classier stuff like Dracula in the future for the rest of these. But I love them. They're so cool.
Yeah, if they go with these really broad, well-known, far-reaching properties for these kind of alt arts, I am all for them. But if we get Cyberpunk 2099 stuff in Kamigawa, then that's gonna miss a lot of people. If you get Blade Runner stuff, maybe, but even then, it's a little bit niche, and you're kind of catering to the same audience that's probably already a fan of Magic in those cases. Right?
Maybe Power Rangers? What could they do? Power Rangers? They could do that, right?
That I would love to see. Angela, what do you think about these Dracula alt arts?
I really like them. They're not for me, so they don't jive for me. But I know that there are people out there who are as excited for these as I was for the Godzilla cards. Because we saw Godzilla and Rodan and King Ghidorah, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. And like I just picked up foils of them, and that way I could use them for Commander. And these don't do it for me, and that's okay. Not everything is for me. And I just want to see new alternate versions of things. I'm okay, and I could be in the minority. I'm okay with the Secret Lair stuff. You know, Jim Hopper, yeah, I'll play with Jim Hopper. It's fine by me. Like, do I prefer the Godzilla and now Dracula treatment? Yeah, I want to see the little magic names there. But you know, the wider net we cast, the bigger the community grows, and to me, that's a positive.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. The more genres that we can cross over with, especially ones that might be in something adjacent and not a direct overlap with people who might already be familiar with the community or in the community, means that we grow and means that we bring in new diverse faces and diverse interests. And that only makes us healthier, right? Clay, what do you think about these Dracula arts? Hit or miss?
I think they're super cool. They're not quite necessarily my niche, but at the same time, like everybody else has said, I just absolutely love pretty much, I think, all alternate art that I've seen really since they've started doing these. Like everything has tickled me. Everything from the Ikoria, like not just the Godzilla, but then the other like in set alternate art that we got for the Ikoria, like all the creatures, the mutate, the comic book style. Those were all so cool. And then like War of the Spark when the Japanese Planeswalker alternate arts, those are just like absolutely my favorites. When we like literally everything, I think anytime we do anything different, it's so cool to me. I would like to have the Magic version for when we get the Secret Lair treatments for cards like that. But at the same time, even that doesn't super matter to me. I love the more art that we get, whether or not I play the card or whether or not the art even applies to me. It's super cool. And if we get to a point where, you know, it's not just Thalia that has 9 unique art, but like tons of creatures and tons of planeswalkers have got to the point where it's like, oh man, look at all these different treatments for Teferi, and look at all these different treatments for Tamiyo, and like, all that stuff's awesome. I love all of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being able to acknowledge like this stuff is great. It might not be for me, but it is for somebody else, is one of the most healthy approaches to this, because there's somebody out there that is going to get into Magic because of this stuff. And the more people that we can get into a hobby that we love, the better. The only people that should be lamenting it are game store owners, people who sell singles, because having to catalog 9 different versions of a single card is an commentators
trying to call Magic events and trying to identify. I do sympathize for those folks. That's unfortunate.
Right.
But for us,
absolutely, because I mean, for us, all of us as Commander players specifically, this means that we can tailor our decks and our experiences even more to what we want. Specific arts, foil versions, alt arts, whatever it might be, you can really make something yours, and you can do that however you want. And whether it's something that somebody else loves, whether it's something that you love, as long as somebody else likes it, it's fantastic. It's amazing to see. I'm personally a huge fan of these black and white arts that we have been getting across Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. They are some of my favorites, especially Dorothea, Vengeful Victim.
Yeah.
That one is one of my favorite across the 2 sets. It is such a creepy art.
That Catilda art also that's up right now.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
It's so good.
Yeah. I think that Wizards trying different things with the art treatments and the frame treatments is really neat, really interesting. What do you feel about the frame treatments we got in Midnight Hunt versus the frame treatments, the Fang treatments that we got in Crimson Vow? Still grokkable, still understandable as a Magic card, Clay?
So I personally, and this is interesting that like I definitely connected with Crimson Vow a lot more, but I liked the what are they calling that festival border?
Yeah,
I don't know what they're
festival border.
Equinox.
Harvest Ford or something. Yeah, Equinox. That's right.
Equinox. That border is so I'm actually like on my other monitor, I have Arlen's card pulled up with this border because it just blows me away. That style, that art, the Catilda one like that. Basically all of the Equinox, the werewolves, the treatment that they got through those, that style just aesthetically blows me away. It's so pretty. And the Val or the Fang is really cool, but it's I think it's harsh enough that it's kind of, and I haven't got to obviously play with the cards yet, so it'll be different when I'm holding them, when I'm across from them, versus like just looking at pictures of them on the monitor. But it's almost harsh enough. It's a little tough for me to see what's going on quickly. I'll be interested to see once I hold them how that feels.
Right on. Angelo, how do you feel? You like these frame treatments as well?
So I do like them, and this complaint is squarely my own. Where in Midnight Hunt, I was like, "Oh, sweet, the Equinox border is really cool." I ordered them all for my cube, and I started putting them in there. And then Crimson Vow spoilers start. I'm like, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna have this frame for the werewolves, are we?" And then I looked, and I'm like, "Oh, and we didn't get that Fang treatment for the vampires in the last set. That's a lot of different frames in my cube." But I like them both. They clash a little bit, but that's also really cool, where the Eternal Night frame and art stayed between the two sets, but the werewolf and warlock and vampire ones kind of shifted, and it was really cool to see how they decided which ones got to stay and which ones they flipped between the two sets.
Fair. Grav, how do you feel about
Yeah,
these treatments?
I love these treatments too, and I really like the differences between them because the art is telling a story here of how the werewolves, especially in this one, you can see like they're the ones leaping from the bushes, and their bushes are like hanging out and kind of bedraggled. But when you go to the vampires, they're very like straight lines and about like order, about vampires. Like it's a very cool storytelling mechanic to show like the werewolves are the outcasts who are, you know, heathens that do things in the night. Vampires do them too, but they do it, you know, they get in line and stuff to do that stuff.
They've got the style. I mean, you can clearly see from the way that they're all dressed in these arts that like the vampires, if they're going to do it, they're going to be clean, they're going to be sleek, they're going to be in their formal wear, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. Jake, how do you feel about these frame treatments?
Yeah, I think they're super awesome. The first thing I thought when I saw the Fang treatment, I was like, this kind of looks like a Flesh and Blood card. I don't know why. I like just started playing the game, but like I saw it and I was like, God, this looks familiar. Wait, yep, I think so. Which isn't a bad thing. I don't think that there was anything intentional there or anything like that. Like just to kind of speak to you know, that last point, like I really like how they tell a story, that they, you know, the werewolves and the vampires are so vastly different, and I think it's going to be kind of cool. And I don't know if they're going to keep the what's it called, the same printings when we do the double feature, but I think that'll be really cool to kind of see like someone with a vampire deck, someone with a werewolf deck, like these two very different looking styles across the table going head to head. It just kind of shows that dichotomy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And it differentiates the two sets as well. It will be interesting to see that in double feature if we're kind of homogenizing them. Maybe that's the set where, Angelo, you'll get your Crimson Vow werewolves in the Equinox frame and your Midnight Hunt vampires in the Fang frame. Who knows, right? Now, before we move on to our next item, I do want to remind everybody who is hanging out with us, thank you very much. We are collecting donations for Extra Life and Sick Kids tonight. You can head to cncpowerhour.com to donate. If you donate in increments of $4, we're going to be doing some draws and some raffles coming up, including MTG Arena packs. We've got an Infinitokens prize pack, which includes 25 cards and tokens. And since we passed our $150 donation mark tonight already, we have 2 Crimson Vow Commander precons that we'll be raffling off too. If we cross the $250 mark, we're going to be adding 2 more precons into that as well. So please donate generously. You can win some goodies, but I'm hoping that you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart too. Thank you everybody for coming out. Okay, so next up, team, I wanted to ask about this two set storytelling mechanic, this dividing Innistrad into 2 sets. Is there a set that you want to go back to at this point and get 2 more sets from? Is there a set in previous history or recent history that we want to see a little bit more of? Do we want to see the fallout of Amonkhet? Do we want to go back to Kaldheim? Do we want to go back to Strixhaven? It really seems like, since we're in this table setting or palette cleansing mode in terms of the overarching story, that we've only just barely touched on a few planes. Is there anywhere that you would want to go back to for one of this A-B set mechanics here?
Well, yes. Sorry.
Jake, please.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I love the 2 sets when introducing a new plane. I really enjoyed my time in Kaldheim, but I just wanted a little bit more. I think they did really well with the time that we had there, but I would have really liked 2 sets to really kind of get me ingrained with the set. I feel like the one-off sets have maybe been more successful in planes we're familiar with. When we went back to Dominaria, and we had that one Dominaria set, we were familiar that we kind of had ideas of what to expect, so we didn't need to establish the lore. We could just jump in. Oh, look, there's Squee. I know this dude. Like, that's great. You know, where like Kaldheim is like, oh, there's this whole theology of these gods, but they're mortal and stuff like that. And oh, we're on to the next one. You know, so with the new sets, I love the 2 set system because I really feel like they have time to build those little things and get us familiar so that we want to go back. You know, and I mean, I guess for different reasons. I want to go back to Kaldheim because I feel like I missed something. Not like, oh, I had such a good time there. I can't wait to go back there and get more of it. It's just like, I just feel like incomplete.
Right. And as a reminder for everybody, Kaldheim released earlier this year. Like, Kaldheim was our January set.
That was 4 years ago.
Right, exactly. I posted a poll recently and everybody replied, wait, that was this year? Kaldheim was this year? Yes, it definitely was. We only got 1 set and it feels like it was 2 years ago at this point. And I would love to see so much more of that and so many others. Clay, what do you think? Is there another plane that you'd want to go back to get kind of an A-B on this?
Yeah, so, you know, basically echoing what Jake said in that I think introducing a new plane, especially the A-B, is almost necessary to really get that feeling, get your teeth in. You know, we went to Zendikar, but like, we've been to Zendikar, so like, that was fine. But like with Kaldheim, with Ikoria, with Strixhaven, where like we've gone to these new places and they're really cool, but like, I would like more of those, and just to give those time to breathe, and you know, being able to split up the story between A and B, giving Strixhaven more time to understand what we're doing and where we are before we go to fight the cult that's trying to like all of that stuff. And then, you know, but as far as places we've been that I would like to go back to for an A-B treatment, Jake was talking about it earlier, but I think my first of the places that I've been already, I think my first pick would be Ixalan. I would love to go back to Ixalan, get another A-B treatment. Chris showing why we can't go back to Ixalan, but I would love to go back to Ixalan. Get another A-B treatment. Go to the I cannot remember now.
Torrazon.
Torrazon, thank you for the vampires, where like they actually like start there. Give us
plain Europe in
but like show us that. Show us more of the pirates. Show us like there's so much more that we can see that we could get from that plane. Give us a whole bunch more dinos. Give, you know, like there's a lot that we could do. That would be a really fun place. And I would love to see what speaking of the alternate art, what our alternate art options would get to be. You know, there were so few cards that got even promo treatment from Ixalan because they weren't really doing that then. But it would be really, really cool. So that'd be my first pick.
Fantastic. Angelo, what do you think? Is there a plane that you'd want to go back to?
My first thought was 2 more Innistrad sets. Let's go. But I was like, no, that's cheating. I can't say that. And
but you just did.
Going back, and I'm like, what other plane do I like maybe half as much as Innistrad? I was like, oh, Tarkir, duh. There's dumb dragons. Like, go beat them up. Get the clans back together. Like, we need to go back there.
I would like to
2 sets. Beat them up.
I would like to change my answer to tied Tarkir and Ixalan. I wasn't thinking about Tarkir, but I would like to like make that tied with Ixalan. 1A and 1B.
Yeah, let's see more of how badly Sarkin messed it up by doing the time travel thing, right? Like, let's see more fallout from that. Has the plane like degraded because there are now temporal paradoxes opening up throughout the plane? Who knows? I would love to see more of that really messed up stuff going on. Gaurav, what about you? Is there a plane that you'd like to go back to?
Actually, Tarkir was going to be my answer, but I will pivot and I will say, actually, now that I think about it, what if, like, you know, talking about the time travel stuff, what if they did like a Tarkir crashed into another plane? I want to see like 2 planes crashing into each other and a mix of things happening there. Like, what would that look like? That'd be kind of interesting. But also, we were talking about Strixhaven earlier, and obviously, I'd love to go back and see obviously, it's not just one school and that's it on a plane. There's a bunch of other stuff. But like, what is that going to be? Is this like my school base? Is it Strixhaven abroad now? Like, is it like the students there going on adventures elsewhere? Which that could be cool. Another plane I'd love to see is Theros, because last time we went there, Beyond Death, like, I feel like wasn't exactly what I wanted. I feel like they really glossed over a lot of Theros and stuff there. Like with Elspeth, it was just like, yeah, she's out, and it's like, okay, that's it. Yep. Nothing happened. I want to go back to Theros because I love the Gods of Theros, because that's the first time they released that type of card, which is an enchantment, indestructible creature, and it was just so flavorful, so cool. And I want to see something happen there. A big shift needs to happen in Theros, and I'd love to see that.
Absolutely. Jake, you had something to add?
Oh no, I was just shaking my head. I was like, that's neat. Sorry, I didn't have much on that.
No, all good. I would love to see, like, are there other colleges on Arcavios? Is Strixhaven the only college on Arcavios? Do we have like an exchange program?
Arcavios Community College.
Clay, you got something to add?
Yeah, so that was something that, and I think that speaks to the struggles when you only have a single set. And I was not as engaged lore-wise with Strixhaven, with Magic at the time. But like, my understanding going into Strixhaven was that it was like the plane was the university, and it wasn't until like later that I realized that there was more to it. But I was like literally picturing it as this like interplanar university
that exists in its own little bubble, right? Like it's an island in the middle of the plane stream.
Yeah, like that was how I pictured it in my head, and then it wasn't until like later that I was like, oh, okay, so it is Arcamos, so then it's the whole thing, and then stuff kind of gets complicated. like kind of gets messier as you realize there's more and more. But I was really into this idea of this like bubble school.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be really neat to have like the interplanar schools go against each other, because we've got several of these schools and colleges from throughout the multiverse as well. So like, do we do some kind of like planner set that's all of them meeting up for these Strixhaven tournaments or science fairs?
Nationals are coming up. Yeah.
Arcavos and Kaladesh. Let's go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
a science fair. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I think my number one choice for a plane to go back to for another like 1 or 2 sets has to be Kaladesh. I think that we got some really neat, different things with inventions and a really technologically heavy plane in Kaladesh that there's just so much more to explore. Now that especially a lot of the overarching rulers or oppressors on the plane are gone, with Dovin Bond taken off, and the rest of the consulate kind of crumbling after Tezzeret stole everything from their grand science fair. I would love to go back and see more with energy and all of these inventions and people that bring these this technology into their lives as an integral part of it. I would love to see that, and more invention borders. I would love to see more invention borders and alterts.
It's interesting to look back now and think about the fact that like the inventions kind of heralded where we were going. And at the time it was like this like really cool thing. And it was like, then they were like, well, we're not going to do every set because like that would be too much. We're like, oh, okay. And then they were like, just kidding. Here's like 6 different treatments for all of these different cards. And then also there's extra stuff. And then there's alternate stuff. But that's kind of cool to look back and think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And now you've got list stuff as well, which is how they're kind of proposing to fix some low print run things as well by sticking them in as list cards, which I think is a whole can of worms that we aren't going to open up.
Yeah.
Today.
I want to pop. I want to hot takes. Come on.
I imagine someone walked into like a Wizards of the Coast boardroom and was like, Rush, like, hey, you guys know we just print money. Like we can just print money, right? Like you guys know that,
we can
right?
just put $100 bill in every one in every 8 packs. Did you know that we can do that?
But we can't charge $4 for that. No, charge more. We print money. You can charge whatever you want.
We'll call it Zendikar.
Oh, fantastic. So, I mean, we talked a little bit about the lore. We've talked a little bit about the block setup. I want to know, what are your favorite cards out of the sets? Across the 2 sets, across Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. Some of you might have answers on the tip of your tongue. Some of you might have to think a little bit about this. But do you have anything that comes to mind immediately as this is my favorite card, either from a flavor standpoint or a story standpoint or a mechanic standpoint, out of these 2 sets? Angelo, why don't we start with you?
So I really like Jadar from Midnight Hunt, specifically because he does everything that any black deck in my cube wants to do. And he's just incredible. Like, he's just a very good card on his own. He's a cool commander. He goes in commander decks. He's great for the cube. Like, just all around all-star.
Yeah, and I think that he's a good representation of what's been going on with the zombie side of things on Innistrad as well. How we now have decayed zombies, how these undying hordes now are kind of falling apart. The Stitchers and the Graph and all of that are showing that progress of time a little bit since the last time we were on the plane till now. So I think from mechanically, it's a slam dunk. It's a home run in terms of a card. Clay, you had an answer as well?
There's so there's so many home runs in this set. I think that like as far as like specifically for Commander, so I built a Catilda deck for the Midnight Hunt Catilda, and I've had a ton of fun with the green-white human archetype in that deck. For a 2-drop commander, making everything mana dorks, just super great. I love that card. But I talked about Grolnok earlier, but flavorfully the slimy critters that we've gotten between Slogurk, Grolnok, Toxrill, like I love this horror, but like natural. Like it doesn't have to just be the undead or lycanthropes or Eldrazi. Like if you take a snail and you make it big enough, that's going to be terrifying, right? Like this frog will eat you. But shit, okay, if a frog's gonna eat me, like that's way more terrifying than Sorin or something, right? So I really like those cards that they gave us. And then just flavorfully, one last card I wanted to shout out was Wretched Throng. the art is horrifying and hilarious, and the flavor text is perfect. As soon as our producer can bring it up, where it's just like, so the card goes, it gets more wretched throngs, right? So they're like coming out of the mouth, and there's another one coming out of the mouth, and the flavor text is just, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no again, and it's like the Cathar's last words. Like that's yeah,
That's
we're
really
trying to do something horrifying and terrifying, but like little bits of camp and humor like that just make things so much better. So I like that stuff really tickles me personally.
Absolutely. Love it. Gaurav, how about you? Favorite cards from the sets?
Okay, so for Midnight Hunt, I really like Old Stick Fingers. Not mechanically. I don't care about this card at all mechanically, really. But like from a flavor standpoint, it's like the boogeyman that they talk about. And like, look at this thing. It's so cool looking and just horrifying. I love Old Stick Fingers. And also what a great name for like a boogeyman card, Old Stick Fingers. That's something that kids will tell stories about, right? Like that's so cool.
It's like the kid who's trying to fall asleep, but the branches are scraping the window. And, and it's like your older brother comes into your room and says, "Oh, that's Old Stick Fingers. He's coming to get you." Or like your parents tell you that so you fall asleep. Like the tapping
that's
at the
not
window.
real. Yeah, exactly. That could be him.
Yeah.
Another one that I liked from Crimson Vow, I really like Voldaren Estate, which is just a land card, and it's not great, honestly, but the art from it is very Castlevania and looks freaking amazing. And another one is Honeymoon Hearse, which is it's a carriage, but they're using skulls instead of like cans that are like clackering behind them as they travel, which is like such a cool flavor thing. I love that. It's so fucking cool. Yeah. I love it.
God. Yeah, I think that there are so many little flavor wins throughout the two sets that, you know, Wizards does such a great job at seeding these things in. They can take themselves seriously, but then they can be so funny as well. Jake, what about you? Your favorite cards from the set?
Yeah, it's a cool one drop uncommon named Cobbled Lancer. I always liked those good. Like, you know, like those one sentence horror stories, and like this, like you get so much information. I mean, it's just this wretched, you know, looking zombie horse, you know, just this creature. Don't worry, everyone. I heard hoofbeats. The Gavany Riders are coming to save us. It's this hopeful thing, and then I mean, we can fill in the blanks there. I love it. It you know, it sets you up with this thing, with this, you know, the flavor text sets up the story, and then the art, you know, gives you the answer, and it's like, oh, well, we know what happened. And I don't know, like I've always liked stories that end not happy, not good, you know, like these real endings. And you know, this is one of those, you know, it's super dark. You know, they have this, you know, the Cathars are coming, or the, you know, the Gavany Riders are coming to save us, and it's like, oh, that wasn't not what you were expecting.
I will also say the art from this looks like something from the 90s in a Magic card. Like it's very like flat and like it's very old looking. I really like the art here.
Yeah, and I think the background is so flat and without detail that it's like some of those old arts where like they didn't even have backgrounds in some of them, where it was just like flat one color paintings. I think it's very reminiscent of that too.
Which to me, those were some of the scariest Magic cards I saw. I remember seeing some of those cards when I was a kid and being like, this game is scary. Like, you know, just it's unsettling at times, you know, compared to what we normally see. You know, I see some of the newer vampire arts, and they're kind of bright and colorful and animated, and you know, you can kind of see some of the digital stuff. This just looks so visceral, and it's just it's scary. It looks like something that I would see like in a dream that would, or should I say a nightmare that I would wake up and I'd be like, Horseman can't get you. Horseman's not real.
Yeah, the most lethal thing to have on the plane of Innistrad is hope. That's the thing, right? The moment you start feeling hopeful is the moment you're a victim.
That's dark, but you're right.
Yeah. Whoever made this zombie is the most evil thing on Innistrad. I know it's not Olivia or Tovalar or Emrakul or whoever. It's whoever was like, what if I took a like this torso that I have, a spare torso from making another zombie, and I was like, you look at the horse and you're just like, big grin gets on you, like, I've got an idea. No, you the worst.
They accidentally made a centaur.
Yeah.
Right. And the fact that its creature type isn't centaur as well, it is specifically zombie horse.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Like they
I
could
just-
have made it like Zombie Centaur, but specifically
Nope.
they said no,
Yeah.
no, that that's a makeshift centaur.
Yeah.
That's a we have centaur at home centaur.
Yeah. Yeah.
Angelo, you had something to add too?
Oh,
Nope.
Sorry, cut
Oh,
out.
I said you had something to add as well.
Yes, sorry. Speaking of like art from this set that looks like it belonged to the game like 20 years ago, Graph Reaver.
Hmm.
It's that 2-drop 3/3 zombie, and it's just a zombie made of like bones. It's really spooky. But yeah,
Let's see if the
it just looks
producer
like it's
can pull it
out of like 1995 Magic.
Clay?
I wait until the producer can bring
There
that
we
one
go.
up.
Oh yeah.
But the other one, and this is from Midnight Hunt, so I forgot about it. But kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum from the older style horror art that we've gotten, and this kind of much more indicative of like kind of newer magic art direction. But the Death Bonnet Sprout from Midnight Hunt, where on the front side, this is like in the running for the cutest magic card we've ever gotten, right? Like this little fungi friend is just adorable. And then it's like, oh, and it flips, and you're just like, that's right, this is Innistrad. And everything will kill you. Like everything is awful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But when they first previewed the Death Bonnet Sprout, I was like, oh my god, I would die for this little friend. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I will die for
You
this
will.
friend. Just,
Fantastic. Now I know I've been on the tirade before about it, but I really wish we got some more Innistrad Scarecrows in these two
Yes.
sets. I think that we only got one, and I would have loved for Old Stick Fingers to be a Scarecrow horror
Yeah. Sure.
as well, just because I love me a good creepy Scarecrow. I
Mhm.
think that it's some of the best kind of gothic horror is this like really creepy, ominous Scarecrow, one that moves when you aren't looking at it, those kind of things. Is there anything from these two sets that you would have liked to see? Do you think that they missed anything that they could have had here? Angelo?
Low hanging fruit with this one. Better werewolves.
Whoa. So
What?
brave.
That's a hot take.
Pew, 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 pew. Shots fired.
I don't know. I look at them and I'm like, wow, these designs are very tame. You added activated abilities, and that's it. Like Daybound, Nightbound, really cool. They could have leaned into it a lot, but like think about Huntmaster or Ulrich. They did things when they transformed. We only have one werewolf between the two sets that like triggers on transforming things. Like there are some that ETB on the backside
Mhm.
and you get effects, but nothing really with transforming. Like it felt like, again, they played it very close to their chest where they go, well, Midnight Hunt, that's the werewolf set. So we're going to have one werewolf, and very good. Tovolar is incredible. And then we're going to have the vampire set. We're going to have 6 vampire legends, and we're going to go through, and we're going to have vampires in all these colors, and we're going to do all these things. It's like, well, a lot of the really good werewolves are also in the vampire set. Like, well, it just felt a little imbalanced. It felt like we had the Tovolar show, and then like a bunch of other werewolves later in the wedding set.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I think that there are some really interesting werewolves in there, especially the ones that give themselves an ability on the daybound side and then
Mhm.
give everything an ability on the nightbound side. I think that that's a really interesting way to look at it. It shows that the werewolves are working together a little
Mhm.
bit more. So I think that that's a little bit of a flavor hit here. But I agree with you as somebody who's going through and making new decks for all of these Innistrad legends. There are like 9 vampire legends in Crimson Vow right now, and there's 1 werewolf legend in Midnight Hunt. So I think that that's a little bit of a miss. I'll agree with you there. Gaurav, anything from these two sets that you would have liked to see?
Not like lore wise, or maybe I guess, but I would have loved to seen Morbid come back. I don't know why it didn't, honestly. Like Morbid, I kind of loved for the first Innistrad. Like Death Matters as a mechanic is like so cool, especially in a plane where death matters a lot because it happens all the time. And I know they have stuff similar to it with the Daybound, Nightbound stuff. But like Morbid was such a cool mechanic, and I just kind of wish they had done more with it.
Yeah, and I think it really would have worked with the decay mechanic on the zombies that we're seeing from Midnight Hunt as well, because it's a way for you to trigger your own Morbid stuff. And I think we got 2 cards that have pseudo Morbid on them. We got Olivia's Ambush, which is like the Daybound Nightbound version of Tragic Slip, and we got Morbid Opportunist, which is, I think, my favorite card out of both of these 2 sets as well. But that triggers on death that at end of turn if a creature died.
The card's so good in Limited. So
it's so good in Commander too. Let me tell you.
Well,
it's great. Jake, anything that you feel they should have included in these? Anything that you missed out on?
I wish they would have put food in the harvest set. That's like you're harvesting and getting all this stuff and having a big old party. Some food would have been cool. I think food tokens are cool. I have like a commander deck that I want to like make food a thing, and I just need more pieces. So Wizards, I know you're listening. Can I get some more food? I'm hungry.
Yeah.
They sent us apples, right? Like you guys got the apples, right?
I think it would have been really interesting and a take on the plane as well to get like a human that turns into food when it dies as to show like it being eaten or devoured by the werewolves or the vampires, in a set where humans are positioned as the prey, something like that, or like a creature that turns other creatures into food kind of thing. Like
I just wanted pumpkin pie. What is wrong with you, Chris? I'm just kidding.
Well, you gotta lean into the gothic horror.
Right? He's right.
What kind of meat is in this meat pie? Like you gotta ask that question.
Exactly. It's always children if they ask, though. It's always children.
Clay, what about you? Anything that you feel we should have had in these sets?
I was actually pretty happy. I think that they covered most of the stuff. I would have liked a little more of a kind of the cultist representation, a little more of the kind of like we have
Ormondal.
Well, Ormondal and what's the creature's name? The guy on the front
Jaren.
Side. Jaren, thank you. It's like you have Jaren, but like a little more of that aspect would be cool from that kind of like that's one of the when I think of like Westvale Abbey and I think of these different Innistrad stuff, that's an aspect that I think kind of didn't get shown as much, and I think would have been a cool thing to show. I'm with you with the Scarecrow. He could have done. He's already out of here now, but the Black Cat, which that like a little bit more of that style stuff.
I think people are still traumatized by Cauldron Familiar.
Yeah,
I was to do more Black Cats.
It's all. I just don't have an oven. It's really simple.
But then I'm not happy because I'm over here asking for an oven. You're asking for a cat. Like,
let Jake eat the cats. He wants to eat the cats.
What if we give you a goose instead? We accept a goose in this time. But no, I think for me personally, I think that they really hit all the notes, and it's hard to remember the things that are in Midnight Hunt, even though it just came out. But was it Flesh Taker? Was another like we talked about. We talked about Old Stickfinger, but like Flesh Taker, that was a great card. The call out like that little flavor.
Some Texas Chainsaw stuff happening.
That was great. Meat-Hook Massacre.
That's another reference. They
did
a good card.
Yeah, and a really good card.
Yeah, very good card.
But they did a lot, and I was really impressed with the different tropes that they hit. Maybe like now I can't remember. Were there any corrupted like angels in?
Not in this set.
Not in this set. Right. No, I know we did those before, but I was thinking like some kind of like maybe that would have been a cool thing too. Is like not necessarily like Eldrazi angel. I guess Lisa kind of, but like that kind of
she
just
works
like
with the dark side,
fallen angel style would have been a cool nod as well. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with what we got.
Great. I'm going to ask another question or two, but I want to remind chat that we're going to do a Q&A as well. If you've got questions that you'd like us to... Oh, God, right. Olivia's...
There's Olivia.
Oh, Lord. Hey, I love how that, like, uncommon card that isn't particularly good has already spawned, like, so many memes and everything. Like, when it was released, Magic Twitter, like, blew up about it. It was fantastic. But I do want to remind chat, we're going to be doing some Q&A. So if you want to ask some questions, redeem your highlight message or the ask a question points redemption as well. We'll get to those in a couple of minutes too. We are just a couple of dollars away at this point from our $250 goal too. If we hit that $250 goal, we just hit it. Fantastic. Hey! Thank you, everybody. We have raised $250 tonight, which means we're adding another 2 Crimson Vow Commander Precons to our raffle. We're going to be doing that at the very end of the show, so do stick around. But thank you very much. We hit an additional $250 in donations tonight. Thank you, everyone. This is
for the kids.
For the kids. For the kids. Amazing. So again, while people ask their questions in chat, remember, redeem your highlight message or ask a question points redemption. I want to ask the rest of the table, getting out of Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow just a little bit, we're looking at a few really cool sets coming up next year too. We're looking at Streets of New Capenna, we're looking at Kamigawa, Neon Dynasty, and we're looking at Brothers War coming up. Yes, thank you, Angela.
Where's the Gabagool?
God, yeah. If we don't get a card that is the Gabagoo in that, like, come on.
Total failure, yeah.
Are there any of these sets coming up that you're looking forward to in particular? Any that we want to learn a little bit from our past learnings, or what we've learned here from Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, knowing that we're only getting one set in each of these places? Is there anything that you're looking for? Gaurav, you.
I'm really looking forward to New Capenna. It is another one of those things where, like, yeah, the Mafia, we know a lot about Mafia stuff. We've watched movies. We've seen all sorts of media about Mafia. Like, let's put that in Magic and see what kind of weird stuff we can do with it. I'm a little sad it's only one set, because it's a 3-color base set. And as we saw in cons, you really need, like, multiple sets to explore 3 colors at its best, I feel like. But I love a good 3-color set, and I'm very excited for New Capenna. That's my big set for next year, I feel like.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking forward to the Shard sets coming back here. It's been a little while since we've seen 3-color sets. We just got another take on 2-color sets in Strixhaven, so returning to that would be fantastic. And they've already promised us a bunch of really cool 3-color stuff for Commander too, which is really exciting. That, and in set boosters, we're getting the Stranger Things secret layers with in-world flavor in the set boosters in New Capenna. So there's really a lot to look forward to.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. Clay, any set from next year that you're looking forward to? Anything in particular from those sets?
Absolutely. So I think that the New Capenna is going to be really, really cool. I'm really excited for that set. But the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty is like 150% my shit. And I actually, like, there was a leak like 2 years ago when Wizards secured the domain
for it,
like ahead of time, and people were like, "Oh, there's gonna be this," and like from that moment, I've just been like tapping my foot, waiting. And then when they announced it, I was like, "We're finally here!" And I'm just I cannot wait for the alternate arts that they're going to give us for the takes on this plane. I obviously wasn't playing Magic when we went to Kamigawa before, but the way things are going to change, the way they're going to adapt stuff, I'm already preparing myself to, like, that's going to be the set that I'm going to spend all my Magic money on in 2022 is going to be Kamigawa. I'm just over the moon already. I cannot wait.
I'm hoping that since they've announced the Stranger Things reprints in New Capenna, that they're going to be playing with the partner with mechanic in standard sets a little bit, and I'm hoping that we're going to see that seeded throughout all of next year. In terms of Kamigawa, as somebody who played in the original Kamigawa block, I'm really hoping they're going to redeem the plane because it was a little bit of a stinker the first time we went to it. A bit of a low point in Magic's power level and history, despite the fantastic rich flavor we had from it. And by the looks of it, we're coming back thousands of years in the future now as well. So I want to see that marriage of old and new in Kamigawa. Jake, how about you? Anything that you're looking forward to from next year?
You forgot a set. You forgot a set.
Oh,
Lord
no,
of the
did I?
Rings, Tales of Middle Earth.
Oh, it's not a standard set. Yeah.
Shit.
It's not standard though. Yeah.
Well, it's modern legal, by the way. But I am so excited. You want to talk about stuff that, like, I'm sure someone's gonna hate, but is made just for me. Oh my gosh, Lord of the Rings, like,
That's actually-
I can, and the fact that we're not getting just a secret lair, we're getting a whole set. Like,
It's in
I'm done.
2023. It's
Is it really?
2000. Yeah,
Is
it's
I
it's
thought
the
they
year
said
after.
22.
No, they announced it during all this stuff, but they said it was going to be in 2023.
Okay, well, ask me again.
But the
next year.
Unfinity, but the related though, the Unfinity set that we're gonna get.
Yeah.
I love the Silver Border
yeah.
products, and I cannot
Yeah.
wait to see what they do with Traveling Space Carnival. That
Yeah.
with the art
Yeah.
That is cool.
spoofing all of the like regular Magic characters and the Planeswalkers. There's like the blow up of Johnny and all that stuff. That's gonna be awesome. I cannot wait to see what they do with that.
We are also getting Commander Legends 2 next year as well. As long as
Yeah.
we're talking
Baldur's
about
Gate.
supplemental
Yeah.
sets.
Mhm.
So, I mean, with the impact that Commander Legends 1 had just this time last year, I want to remind
Yeah.
everybody again, a set that we're only a year removed from. A lot of neat things for us as Commander players, too, coming up. Angelo, next year's sets, anything on the horizon for you that you're looking forward to?
So, out of next year, I'm quite excited for Kamigawa, just because I've never really done anything with Kamigawa. I started playing Magic well after that set came out. New Capenna's cool because Gabagoo, Bibbidi Bop, that whole thing. I'm down. Seeing 3-color demons will be interesting, particularly if they're shards, because like, what do Bant demons look like? But I don't know, the like Dominaria I'm not really particularly fond of. Like, it's fine, it's there. Brothers War, it's fine, it's there. What's kind of getting me through that last half of next year is my thought process being, well, why are we going to Dominaria? Why are we doing Brothers War? Oh, this is set up for Phyrexians, for those who don't know them. And so me just hoping that the following year we'll be getting into new Phyrexia stuff is kind of what I'm hoping for. So next year's front-loaded for me. Back half,
Yeah.
If 2023 is the year of Phyrexia, that would be so wild.
Yeah.
Phyrexians are now the plane hopping threat, the big bad of the story.
Yep.
I think that would be rad. A lot of people are looking forward to that too. A lot of diehard Phyrexian fans in chat here as well. All right, so we've got a couple of questions. Oh, sorry, Jake, you had something to add.
Yeah, I just want to add, I felt because the Brothers War thing was super not like my thing either. I just wanted to add this, but I'm actually got excited about it the more I thought about it, because I wasn't playing early in Magic days, and like I've definitely heard about the Brothers War. I know Mishra as a dude, Ursa's a dude too, and pretty busted in Commander, but I really don't know much about them. So I'm kind of excited to step back in a new set that's revisiting this time. These events that have already happened, but exploring it with new cards and kind of maybe catch me, kind of like you said, catch me up on Phyrexians and on that lore. So that's kind of what's getting me excited about it, because I've never experienced that old school Magic, but it's going to be like old school Magic for Zoomers, so I should be able to digest it. It'll be on Arena, so I understand.
Yeah,
Jake,
on,
if you
on
want-
Arena and TikTok.
Yeah.
Jake, if you want, I can send you my copy of the Brothers War, the book.
Oh,
If you-
okay. Yeah, I forgot there was a book. That's so cool.
I
I forgot
and
books
that's where a
existed.
lot of people know that from, is that
Yeah.
one of the original book series that Magic released was about Brothers War and set a lot of the table for the first 15 years of Magic storytelling.
Yeah.
Really cool.
TLDR, they're both jerks. That's
Yeah.
it.
No,
Yeah.
I heard they suck.
Yeah.
They suck, man.
Jerks.
Spoilers, yeah, they're both dicks. All right, so we've got a couple of questions. Before we get into these questions, we're gonna close eligibility for the raffle in just a few minutes once we're done these questions as well. So if you want to be eligible or if you want to get a few more entries in, donate now. And we're going to dive into your questions. Make sure if you've got questions while we're talking about these, do highlight them in chat. First up from Crab Baskets. Outside of Commander, anything from Crimson Vow you think will possibly be shaking up the 60 card formats? I think that this one's pointed at Pioneer Jake.
Yo, there's a new Winota deck in town, and it's all about werewolves, Tovalar, and the Huntmaster. You get your mana because So yeah, I know this is silly because like it was like, what's Pioneer? In case you don't know, it's Return to Ravnica Forward. But yeah, the Winota deck was okay. It really wasn't seeing a lot of play in the mana, but it's like taking over a lot of Pioneer right now because it you go a Despair Sentinel. Even that new Innkeeper, Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic early on to get your Winota out. And then when you do swing with you swing with those elves, you can just get a bunch of these cool, human werewolves, down. And then you kind of have some finishing power there. So yeah, actually some cool stuff being shaken up in Pioneer with this new set.
Rad. Anybody else with any opinions on 60 card formats? Clay, I know you're a big draft fan.
Yeah, so I'm actually, and I have no idea if it will be good or not, but one deck that I really want to try building in Historic is enchantments. Crimson Vow gave us a bunch of good white enchantments that care about other enchantments. And so the enchantment that when you play an enchantment makes an angel, that's legal in Historic. Thanks to Jumpstart. Cannot remember the name of it now. But
the throne.
Sigil of the Empty Throne. Yeah.
Thank you. There we go. We all got there. But so, so between that one, there's I really, really like the Hallowed Haunting, which is whenever you cast an enchantment, you make a spirit, and then the spirits have 1/1 for each spirit that you control. And then like between that, Sigil, the Sigarda summons, which like makes all your things angels. Like there's a curve here, and then you can like safely wrath and kind of play a control style until you just have an overbearing presence in the air. Like I said, I don't think it'll be competitive in Historic, but I'm going to make a lot of people miserable with it on the ladder.
Right. With Vanquish the Horde in there as well, I mean, it's very easy to have a few wraths in your deck too. Yeah. Sweet. Gaurav, any insight on 60 card formats from your opinion?
Well, I work at the command zone, so we're not allowed to play any other format.
Right.
Sadly, Josh gets really mad.
Yeah, they count the cards in your deck, and if it's less than 100, you get kicked out.
Yeah. But honestly, like the only other format I played previously to Commander, I did play Standard when like Khans was legal, but I played Pauper, so I'm excited to go through and see if there's any Pauper stuff in here that's actually pretty good. But I haven't gone through it yet to figure out if there is, but there's usually one or two in every set that's like, oh, this could do something.
Yeah. Angelo, 60 card formats?
In Standard, Angie, Maid of Dishonor is basically Siege Rhino, and I will not be taking questions at this time.
What? I love Siege Rhino. He's back.
Let me reread. I need to reread this card because I clearly
everybody in chat and in this panel is now what?
Okay, nothing about this looks like Siege Rhino.
I
mean, the power toughness is there
at this time.
There's no trample. It's got the same CMC.
Will somebody please clip that for me?
When it becomes a menace, has to get banned. We're like, it was Siege Rhino all along.
Yeah.
Always.
Everything is Siege Rhino. It always has been.
We are old, yeah.
Out of everything, Angie gets banned, not Alrund's Epiphany.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, fantastic. All right. Our next question from Miss Eldritch. What card that maybe you don't think is super good, but you just love from these sets anyway?
I got mine. It's the one with the ancestor one, Kindly Ancestor. Oh my God, talk about my heartstrings. Like I was really close to my grandma, and you know, she passed away some years back. And this card, like I saw it, and I just started crying. I was like, oh my God. Just, again, the flavor text, you know, you look cool, dearie. And then, you know, thanks, grandma. I love you too. Cause that's just like such like that's what grandmas do. Like they keep you warm and just, you know, there's, you know, it's just really nice to still think about that person watching over you and looking after you and guiding you, you know, even into your days. So like that's a card that's like really special to me. I don't think it's good, you know, a 2/3 with lifelink, you know, you can get something lifelink. It's like whatever, but like that's just one of those cards where it's like I need this in my life. I just need to hold it, you know, and have that little story with me.
Absolutely, Angelo. Anything that you're attached to, even if it's not that good?
So I'm attached to this card because I hate it, but I hate it because like I've come to respect it because I hate it so much, because I played so much Midnight Hunt Limited, and when my opponent's on red and they swing in and I block and they go raise the effigy +2/+2, I'm like, this card is so bad, and I keep like getting got by it. I'm obviously bad, not this card. And then I started playing it. And I'm like, all right, I like this card now. It's probably going in my cube, even though I hate it, but I like it.
Oh, fantastic. Gruv, any card that you're attached to, even if it's not that good?
I mean, I talked about Old Stick Fingers, which I thought was really cool. There's another card that's like a devil that has like a pumpkin on its head. It's called like Festival Crasher. I think it's called Festival Crasher. It's just like this devil that has like a pumpkin on its head that's like running around setting fires everywhere, and it's just so cool. So many candles, so many flammables, so little time. It's just fun. This is a fun flavor card.
Oh, fantastic. Clay?
Component collector. Okay, in limited. Not great or really impactful in any way in any other format. But this
Homunculus.
little friend, yeah, Homunculus, awesome. And then also just like this little friend's so cute and so helpful. And you know,
this is the card that's going trick or treating, right? That's what it looks like. Trick or treat is what I got.
Bringing all the prizes back home so I don't get opened up. But no, I love component collector. Just sentimentally.
Yeah, this one's like a big bring out your dad vibe.
Yeah.
To it. Like, bring out your dad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so from Scott Savantier in chat, this is for Angelo in particular. In relation to New Capenna, what magic mechanic or keyword describes the vibe or energy of an Italian-American household? Very pointed question for you, buddy.
Wow.
I don't know if there's any that currently exist, but my call to shot is there's a mechanic called Gabagoo, and some cards are going to be Gabas and some cards are going to be Goos, and it's basically going to be Friends Forever. It's going to be the Secret Lair cards in Magic form. Gabas can pair with Goos and vice versa.
Fantastic. Oh God. I want to see Cement Shoes card. In New
Oh yeah.
That's like tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. If that player controls an island, destroy that creature instead.
Oh,
like, something like that. Just be
Yeah.
If we don't have like motorcycles into cycling as a mechanic, I'm gonna be very upset.
I feel like they could bring
the set
back
is Streets of New Capenna. We need like
Streets,
literal motorcycles.
They could bring back Extort
it's the
here.
one-time cycling can be
Extort.
flavorful.
Extort
Yeah,
could
I
work,
love
right?
seeing
Like
That
Extort
makes a
come back.
lot of sense. I like that.
they could come back.
Vehicles that cycle and are cycles.
It's too much. It's too many cycles.
It's too meta, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Especially a two-wheeled vehicle that has two cycling abilities on it.
I mean, you
So
figure
it's
they're going to finish the
bicycling.
Triumph cycle here, which had cycling, so it's not impossible
Right.
Right.
that it happens. So
Ooh. Yeah, this would be a
Yeah.
good set for it. It is going to
Yeah.
be shards. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Mhm.
Okay, our last question here, another one from Crab Baskets. Thank you, Crab Baskets. Picking up singles, do you expect to get more from Crimson Vow, or were there more hits from Midnight Hunt for you?
ooh.
Depends on your commander. I mean, if if you were holding on to that werewolf one, he's got like a lot in. But I mean, as we kind of mentioned earlier, there's a lot of really good werewolves, in the top end coming over for Crimson Vow. I'm seeing, just as a person who usually buys a box and then kind of just picks up some singles here and there. I like opening a box. I feel like I'm gonna probably get a little bit more Crimson Vow as far as singles than I got out of Midnight Hunt.
I know personally I'm getting a few more of the legends out of Crimson Vow, and a lot less of the commons and uncommons from Crimson Vow than I got out of Midnight Hunt. So there's a little bit of a balance there from my end personally. Angelo, I know you're getting a lot of everything for your queue, right? So.
There are currently 142 cards from Midnight Hunt in my cube and 99 cards from Crimson Vow. So Midnight Hunt is my answer.
There you go.
How big is this cube?
Keep it nice and clear.
540 cards.
Oh, it's not that big. That's pretty good. It's a decent size.
Gaurav, picking up singles from Crimson Vow, Midnight Hunt. What's the balance?
I'm definitely getting. I know I'm definitely getting all the Dracula cards from Crimson Vow. So I guess Vow, because I haven't picked up any cards from Midnight Hunt yet. So I just like vampires more than werewolves.
There you go.
And I guess so does wizards. So
yeah, right.
Sorry.
Oh, fantastic. Clay, how about you? Balance between the two sets.
I'm going to end up getting more Crimson Vow than Midnight Hunt, but I got 2 singles from Midnight Hunt. I've been kind of in this weird spot where not having a lot as far as like picking up a bunch of magic cards. So I literally got Catilda and Slowkirk from Midnight Hunt. And I might retroactively go back and pick up some more pieces, but Crimson Vow is probably going to be similar, where I'm looking. Really, I think right now I'm just looking at those aforementioned enchantment cards, and then a couple of the probably neat alternate arts for some of the vampire legendaries. But for the most part, it's probably still going to be 8 to 10 singles. so this is not going wild. Definitely Helana and Elena. I forgot about them completely over the span of our Crimson Vow previews, but. That stuff like that specific artwork, I'm definitely going to be getting.
Absolutely, they're another good one, another good pair of characters to see return here on their home plane. Yeah, very interesting. After we saw the partner legends in Commander Legends with them, maybe we'll see them in Commander Legends too. Who knows? All right. So we are going to wrap up, everybody. We're going to announce our draw winners. Then we'll give everybody a chance to once again say who they are. I want to thank everybody for donating. Again, we raised over $250 in the span of 2 hours tonight.
Nice.
Thank you, everybody, so much. Everybody appreciates that. You're all incredible. But we do have a few winners here. So the winner of our Infinitokens bundle is Mishotem.
Hey,
congratulations,
Mishotem.
Mishotem.
Congrats.
Please DM CNC Power Hour with your information. We'll make sure you get that. Congratulations. The first winner of our Midnight Hunt Commander Precon is Olsen34. Congratulations, Olsen34.
Hey, let's go.
Congrats.
Okay. The second winner of our Midnight Hunt Commander Precon is Crab Baskets. Congratulations, Crab Baskets. Thank you very much. You've been here all night. Really do appreciate it, and your generous donations. And the winners of our Crimson Vow Commander Precons, our first one is our friend Thromo King.
So
Chris,
Congratulations, Chris. Thank you very much for donating, and congratulations. And then the second winner of our Crimson Vow Precon is Please Search MTG. Congratulations, Please Search MTG. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for donating and your contributions. Thank you, everybody, so much. This is amazing. Congratulations to the winners. All right. We're going to go around the table one more time. Remind everybody who you are, where we can find you. And thank you, everybody, for coming out. I thank all of my panelists here. This has been fantastic. Gaurav, we'll start with you. Please, who are you? Where can we find you?
Hey everybody, I'm Grav Galati. You can find me on the Command Zone. I work on the ads and other special projects. I'm also on Extra Turns sometimes, so catch me there. I'm at double GXG, the word double GXG, on all socials.
Fantastic. Angelo?
Yes, I'm Angelo. I'm the Just Guy on Twitter, and I write for EDH Rec. My articles come out on Tuesdays, but this week I have the Crimson Vow Gold multicolored set review coming out, I believe, on Friday. It's like 5,000 words, so please, I'd appreciate if you take a look. And yeah, thanks for having me.
As always, a pleasure. Jake?
Hey everyone, I'm Casual Jake. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I stream Magic the Gathering. Would love to have you on stream. Just check out casual_Jake_ for all my social medias, including TikTok and Twitter. And yeah, let's connect. Let's play some games, and always open to having people on my YouTube Casual Corner. So hit me up for some games.
Fantastic. Clay?
Hi friends, I'm Clayby. I am the CNC representative here on the roundtable today. If you are new here to our channel, we normally stream virtual EDH Wednesdays and Sundays, along with we like to venture into some limited stuff. We do sealed leagues. We recently did a sealed Mirage stream, which was a lot of fun, where we've got Visions lined up coming up here pretty soon.
Wow.
And yeah, and I just wanted to say thanks again to everybody for joining us. Thanks to everybody in chat, and thank you to Chris, who puts so much work into each one of these and does a fantastic job moderating and shepherding us wayward Magic players through talking about all these cards and the stuff that we love.
Yeah.
And
always a pleasure, my friends. Always a pleasure.
And if you're not familiar, Chris is raising money all month and is putting out deck techs every single day of November. So check those out. He's doing shorts, but he puts so much work out there and such good product. So definitely check out Chris, and continue to support this cause beyond tonight. So just want to say thanks again.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And as always, I am Chris, and I'm your Commander Mechanic. I do want to thank everybody, all of our panelists for coming out, everybody who has joined us in chat, and everybody that contributed tonight as well. As Clay mentioned, it is November, which is my big charity fundraiser all month long. You get a video and a deck from me every day this month. We are continuing to raise donations all month long. So while we have raised this generous chunk today, it doesn't stop here. We are going all the way through to December 1st. So once again, thanks everybody. Everybody, we appreciate it. Extra Life appreciates it. Sick Kids appreciates it. And most of all, I appreciate it. We are going to go raid our friend Tappy Toe Claws here. So do stick around. And thank you everybody once again. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care, friends.
Have a good night.